Bajaj claims that the Pulsar NS160 is the fastest 160cc bike. On paper that's true because it makes more power and torque than its closest rivals. But we can't forget that it is also the heaviest 160cc bike. So is it actually the fastest bike in this segment? Bear with me to get the answer later on in the video. The Pulsar brand has been extremely fruitful for Bajaj ever since its inception, and it continues to be so. And the best-selling member of this family has mostly been the Pulsar 150. But it was around 2017 that the company realized it needs something more competitive and exciting in this segment, and that's when the Pulsar NS160 came into the picture. Now, we had ridden its BS4 model, and we had quite liked it for more reasons than one. Now, with the BS6 changes, it has majorly remained unchanged, but the competition has gotten tougher now and it needs to face very strong contenders in this segment. So, is the Pulsar NS160 still likeable enough to sustain in this cutthroat competition, and should you be bringing home one? We try to answer these questions in this review from BikeWale. Let's talk about the design first. The Pulsar NS160 looks identical to its elder sibling, the NS200. This is a fairly old design that hasn't seen major changes since its inception. While some revisions would have brought a breath of fresh air, we aren't really complaining as it still looks modern and sporty. The entire bodywork is dominated by sharp and muscular contours that make it look like a typical street fighter. What makes the latest addition more eye-catchy is the white paint job on the frame and wheels, along with carbon fiber finishing on the fenders. On the quality front, the Pulsar NS160 is just about average and not the best in its class. The quality of plastic bodywork is decent and there aren't any inconsistent panel gaps either. But Bajaj could have done slightly better with the paint job. On our test bike, we could see the white paint of the frame being smudged out that looks untidy, and some of the panels were already making soft rattling sound. The ergonomics of the Pulsar NS160 are comfortable, but there's a sense of commitment to it that makes it more engaging to ride. Firstly, the seat height at 805 mm is the tallest in its segment, but getting on the bike should not be a problem even for shorter riders. As for the overall riding triangle, it's a bit on the sportier side, with foot pegs being set rear and the clip-on handlebar which is placed slightly away from the rider, but it is tall, so it's easy to reach. So the overall ergonomics are comfy and sporty at the same time. As for the seat, it is a bit firm, but it has optimum cushioning that I didn't feel any fatigue even after riding it for 2 hours continuously. Moving on to the engine, the Pulsar NS160 runs on a 160.3cc single-cylinder oil-cooled engine with a 4-valve head. It churns out 17.03 bhp of power and 14.6 Nm of peak torque. Now coming back to our main question, is this the fastest bike in its class? So I went full throttle on an empty stretch of road in a controlled environment, and the NS160 managed to touch a top speed of 120 kmph, and that's pretty fast for a 160cc bike. But only a proper comparative test will reveal if it's actually the fastest bike in this segment. Although this engine feels refined, there's a hint of gruffness at higher revs that's typical of a Pulsar, and it also likes to be revved. These aspects make riding the NS160 pretty engaging. It picks up from a standstill with fair urgency and keeps pulling linearly until red line. Although there aren't any surprises across the rev band, you can feel it speeding ahead with a bit more eagerness after crossing 5000 RPM. First and second gear ratios are short and the engine is relaxed at slow speeds, which means riding in the city is a breeze. Out on the highway, it can stay at around 100 kmph all day long without much stress on the engine, but overtaking requires a bit of planning, downshifting and ringing the throttle hard. And it's not free of vibrations. As you approach 6000 RPM, minor buzz start emanating on the handlebar, but not to the extent of being annoying. The 5-speed gearbox is effortless to operate as it shifts with a short throw and assurance, but it often gets stuck at neutral easily while transitioning from first to second. Fortunately, shifting gears never get tiring because of the lightness of the clutch. The performance from the NS160 is undoubtedly impressive, but what's equally amazing is the way this bike handles. It feels very quick, well-mannered and composed while changing directions, all that despite being the heaviest in its class at 151 kgs cup. Even the steering response is pretty sharp, so whether you are changing directions, switching lanes or going fast around twisties, the NS160 inspires a lot of confidence, and that's mainly because of this well-engineered perimeter frame and suspension setup. Which brings us to the ride quality, and that's another praiseworthy aspect about the bike. Damping duties are handled by telescopic forks at the front and a monoshock at the rear. This setup makes sure that minor road undulations are ironed out cleanly and don't send a nasty jerk to the rider. There's a bit of stiffness to the ride while going over taller bumps, stones or sharp-edged elements, but it never bounces harshly or loses composure. The NS160 also stops quickly and confidently. It gets a 260cc disc at the front and a 230 disc at the rear, and both of them do a good job of shedding speed. The front brake has a strong bite and decent amount of feel at the lever. Although the rear feels too soft, ample progression means the wheel doesn't lock up easily. Helping it deliver great braking performance and handling dynamics are MRF Zapper tires that stick to the road surface with a lot of grip. One area where the NS160 is lagging behind is in terms of modern features. Now, a fully digital console has become a norm in this segment and all the bikes get it except for this one. This semi-digital console had remained unchanged since 2012, since it had started its life with the NS200. Similarly, all of its rivals get an LED headlamp, but the NS160 is still making do with this halogen setup. Nevertheless, the spread and throw from this unit is pretty good and it illuminates the road ahead nicely. The Pulsar NS160 is for those who want an everyday commuter but with a good dose of sporty styling and performance. It feels relaxed but adequately quick in the city, while it can also be a fun and engaging option for your weekend jaunts around some twisties. Once in a while, you can also mount your luggage on it and hit the highway for long trips. With an ex-showroom price tag of Rs 1.10 lakh, it is just slightly pricier than the Hero Xtreme 160R and the TVS Apache RTR 164V. Now these bikes deliver a bit more in terms of features, but if you are not worried about an LCD console and an LED headlamp and want something raw and exciting, the Pulsar NS160 makes for a good choice.